Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today I figured I would take it a little bit easier. Instead of 12 hours of editing on this video with components and B-roll and games sprawled across the table, I thought I'd do more of a Board Game Co. style video where the games I can't even film B-roll of because they're unopened. You saw in the title of this video something along the lines of 5 games I love that are still in shrink, or 5 games in my collection that are still in shrink. And those statements are true. Now, before you run away, I have played and have experiences with all of these games. There's a reason why these games are part of my collection, and these games are still in shrink. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and swing into this conversation. I've been up the majority of the night responding to and catching up on emails and Discord notifications and messages and trying to respond to comments, and so this is just going to be probably a little bit of a quicker and yet still rambling video. So, 5 games. Here, I'm going to go through Brutal Kingdom, Space Empires, Forgotten Waters, Detective, City of Angels, and Clank Legacy. Starting here with the smallest one on the very top, a game by Cosmos, a game of beastly betrayal, Brutal Kingdom by Michael Rednick. This is a game that is gonna stay in my collection. This is a very interesting little sort of social deduction game where you're doing your very best. It's a small box game, plays 3 to 4, 12 and up in 30 minutes, and you're gonna have a hand of different animal cards that exist in this kingdom, and you're playing down one at a time, trying to read what other players around the room might have, and doing your very best to secure victory points and take out or assassinate other players' characters. Or potentially, if you're good at the game, protect the characters that you have. The reason I own this game, I have played Brutal Kingdom. I've played it a few times. Now, granted, it was probably 8 months ago or so. Over in Washington, D.C., this is one of my good friends' favorite little social deduction or bluffing games. Brutal Kingdom is at the top of Matt's list when it comes to especially small box games. And it is not in print anymore. So becoming fairly easy to find, but becoming harder and harder to find as time goes on. And so I ended up ordering a copy. I was hoping to and still intend to bring coverage of it on the channel, but since I haven't had an opportunity to sit down and play it since then, and up in DC I would just use Matt's whenever he'd come over, this has just remained part of my collection, still in shrink. Another game that I'm going to have to blame on Matt is going to be Space Empires 4X. This is a GMT game. This says that it plays 1 to 4 players, 14 plus, and takes, I'm going to say takes many light years to play. This is going to be my favorite 4X game that I've ever experienced. And in fact, when I put together a top 10 list, this is going to be a contender for a spot on that list. Where? I'm not sure. I haven't thought that far ahead. But this is another game that I've had the opportunity to play with my good friend Matt. And the reality is, this is a game that I have only really had the opportunity to play with my good friend Matt. This is a chit-based 4X game where you are exploring the depths of space. It is heavy and tactical, and you're using sheets of paper to track all the resources that you're getting and the money that you have and the upgraded ships that you have and determining which ones are flying out in which zone, and there are no miniatures, and there is no insert in this box to help you organize and sort and structure everything. And it is both massive and sort of ugly and also incredibly beautiful. Space Empires 4X gives me the space experience that I want and gives me the heavy 4X experience that I want in a tactical war game, better than almost anything else I've seen. And I think part of that is they just focused on the mechanics of this game. There are very, very few frills that go into this. If it's going to stand, it has to stand. It has to stand on its own. So that is going to be this one. The reason I have a copy here in shrink, because that is the point of the video, first off, I don't want to open it and punch all the cardboard and stuff like that. I'll open it whenever we cover it on the channel, when I talk someone else into learning it with me. But I did want a copy of this game. GMT does a thing called SKU 500 or something like that, where when 500 orders of a title come in, they go ahead and do a print run and then send them out to everyone who is waiting. Well, sometimes that line can be a couple months long, sometimes that line can be a couple years long to get a copy. And so I hopped into, after I fell in love with this game, I hopped into the SKU, and it just happened that it hit that 500 mark, printed, delivered, and I haven't had anyone to play it with. So we'll just scoot that over here. Forgotten Waters. Oh, a beloved game. A game that is I mean, this game I have absolutely fallen in love with. And you're probably confused. You're saying, how have you fallen in love with this game? You haven't played it. It's still in shrink. I know, that's the whole... I've played this game multiple times on TTS with the Discord community, with my Patreon community. In fact, I've been on some fantastic pirate adventures with that group. Using the online portal that Plaid Hat Games has set up. I fell in love with the silliness and the story and the adventure and the writing of this game. So Forgotten Waters is going to be a game where you're operating as a crew, thinking on your feet, tracking through kind of ad-libs in a way, your own little story elements for each member of the crew, and going on an adventure. But it is full of this comedic pirate experience mixed with really, really good, quick action selection and choices, sort of story-driven consequences to the narrative that's happening here. This is a game that has made me want to play everything else Plaid Hat has put out, just so I'm making sure I'm not missing other opportunities for an incredible story. In fact, because I've played and experienced and fallen in love with Forgotten Waters, I also now am starting at the beginning. I have Mice and Mystics that I want to start diving into solo. The other thing that I can say is the reason, like we're going over, the reason I have this game in shrink is because I ordered it from Labyrinth Games and Puzzles. In this video, I'll have a link at the top of this video where you can go support my local game store up in Washington, D.C. This has been a hard year on the industry as a whole, but our local retail specifically. And so this was a game where I was able to get the additional promos, the first print run promos that came with it, and I was able to support and give some love to the place where I fell in love with board games. And so this was a no-brainer for me to pick up, and it will remain in shrink until I have a crew that I can go ahead and set sail with. I'm perfectly happy playing this online for now, but I also really wanted a copy. So I'm gonna just set this over here. Detective City of Angels. I've had this game in shrink since, wow, I guess since last October. I'm just kind of scared to open it, if I'm gonna be honest. Now, again, I have played this game. Now, granted, I played this game for the first time at a convention with the Funkhausers. They run Board Game Spotlight, Derek and Lizzie, and it was being run by, I believe, one of the designers from Van Ryder. It was about the most perfect experience you could have when you're getting into a game that requires a DM and then sets a group of fun, interesting people on an adventure to be a detective in a city. This is by Van Ryder Games, and at that convention, literally at that convention, they had a deal going on, and so I picked up this and the expansion. I think I got the expansion for free or something if I bought the base game. I want to run this game but I need like 3 or 4 other people to run this game with, and I just haven't had the opportunity, and I'm a little intimidated to break the seam on this because there's so much I want to explore and so many little pockets and packets and story adventures to go on, and until I know I have a group that's ready for that type of commitment, I don't want to start it. I just sort of want to own it. Now, Detective City of Angels is an absolutely mind-blowing detective game. In this game, like I said, you're going to have a DM that's running the story, and the reason that's important is because you as detectives will be exploring and moving around a city. And as you're doing that, you're going to be able to study a certain series of events. All of them have opportunities that are available to you when it comes to inquiring about every single individual, having a series of answers that, witnesses might give back to you, and you're trying to push the line and determine, are they telling me the truth? Could I get a better answer out of them? And that's what the DM is there for. The DM is running the game, is being the environment that you're playing around. If you like detective games, this is the best detective experience in a box that I can think of. They really, really hit this one out of the park. And one day, I'll play it. And then lastly, we have Clank Acquisitions Incorporated. What a massive box. I saved some big boxes for the very end. Why do I have this in Shrink? Well, very simply, this is a legacy game. A legacy game which I have started. I have a video that I need to edit of my crew in DC playing the very first campaign, not of mine, of a friends of mine. And I think Clank... So, I didn't really like base Clank. I thought it was fine. I thought Clank in Space improved upon the mechanics, the systems, helped me fall in love and see what deck building could be, but I really didn't love the theme. It was okay. This performs on both of those areas. Through Clank and through my experience in board gaming, I have fallen more and more in love with deck building as a core mechanic, a concept in a game. My favorite mechanics would probably go flavor text, then deck building. Flavor text is a mechanic. We'll debate about that later, sooner or later. Jan doesn't agree with me. But this game, Acquisitions Incorporated, this is a legacy game that I really want to journey through. I picked up a copy of my own immediately after we'd played that first experience with it because I enjoyed that first story so much. And I think I've played 3 games, maybe 2, but I believe 3 games total now. And I've enjoyed those stories so much that the deck building and the way that they've integrated the legacy and just the adventure, I wanted a copy of my own so that when I had a group of friends to sit down and journey into something, I could pull this out and start an adventure. Do I need to have it? No, I don't think so. But the other thing is, I really want this to become my Clank game. I don't want base Clank, and I have no interest in Clank in Space, but Clank Acquisitions Incorporated, I'm perfectly fine as well popping the seam on this and just having this be the Clank that exists at my house. So that's another possibility. And that's going to be why I have a bunch of games in Shrink. Now, for the record, I don't, seek to open things immediately. That's clear. I usually like to keep things in Shrink so they're protected and organized until I'm ready to either cover them on the channel or get them to a table with a group of friends. And so all of these games, while I have experiences with them and I'm excited to play them, that time just hasn't shown up yet. One day it will. So, as the dogs are barking behind me and this video descends into chaos, I hope you've enjoyed this. Let me know what games you still have in Shrink, or if you're someone who opens games immediately, let me know what games you have on your shelf of shame, or have on your shelf that you've experienced, you own, but you maybe haven't played your own copy of them yet. I'd love to hear from you. And with that being said, I'm going to go edit this video, get it posted as soon as the export's done, and by the time you're watching that, I'm probably sleeping for a little while because it's been a long night. I caught up on like 70 emails, messaged a lot of people back, had a few important phone calls. There's a lot of cool stuff happening here on the channel that I'm really excited about. That being said, there's a lot happening here on the channel. Whatever the case, whatever you do, thank you for being here, and remember to do the important thing. Get out and play some games. We'll see you next time. Thank you.